Today we have an author, actor, voice actor. We have with us today Mr. Darren Jacobs.
Hey.
So you approached me to, well, as actually quite a few independent authors do, because for some reason the ones who actually have lots of followers don't care anymore. Actually, a lot of them do. But you approached me to read one of your books, Animal Laser Ball. Yes, Laser Ball. For some reason I wanted to call it Laser Tag. Animal Laser Ball. And then, of course, as I was going through your background, I realized I know you from a lot more things than that.
Yeah. I've got 2 books now out, and the third one is on the way. It's from the Animal Empire series. The first one is called Laser Ball. Second one is called Alpha, and the third one will be out in the next few weeks, and it's called Reaper. And I know you from. We have connections, and
well, just looking at your Twitter, I'm like, oh, there's Doug Jones. We've had him on. I think Adrienne Wilkinson was on there somewhere. I've heard her on. I've had EJ De La Pena on. I've had Cass Anvar on. I've had a lot of people from Nobility on in general.
Yeah.
So people know the format we're gonna have. We're gonna have the first half of this. We're gonna be talking about your book.
Yep.
Because that's one of the big purposes to be here. In the second half, we're gonna learn a little more about you and the other things that you do.
Cool.
So, first of all, we're going to focus on Animal Laser Ball, which is the one that I've been reading. And the first question I have is, you sell this as Lion King meets Hunger Games?
No. Well, it depends on who I'm talking to, but I would say it's a mishmash of Planet of the Apes or Island of Dr. Moreau meets Hunger Games meets Tron.
Okay.
So yeah,
because the first thing I was looking at, I'm like, animals. Why the this is going to be spelled the proper way. Animals. Why is your main characters in your world set up in a place where there's so many, where they're all hybrid animals? But why animals? Why they focus on lions, tigers, and elephants? All these different things. What drove you to that?
Because the way that we're going at the moment with our society and the way that we're messing around with DNA and things like that, and we were thinking of a different type of dystopia, apocalypse, and in the future, what happens is in our world, what happens is that there's biological warfare, and people keep training the animals and playing with their DNA to make monsters or weapons, basically, and it all goes wrong. And humanity dies out, and they know that they're dying as well. So they're using DNA to try and make their own DNA stronger, and it doesn't work. But they've injected the animals with the human DNA as well. But that does over generations and centuries, and then our story starts centuries in the future where society is started up again, and that's basically the premise of it.
And I want two things I'm going to admit. The first thing is your book is it's a fast read. It's a page turner. You can go, it flows really well. So I don't have to it's not one like say a George R. R. Martin book where you're reading I think I missed something in that 400-word paragraph right there.
Yeah.
It flows. It moves really well. It's a page turner.
Yeah.
And I've been reading it on a desktop because my Kindle died in the move. Its screen's dead now. And so I've been reading it on one of the desktop apps. But then the other thing I'm going to admit is early on, I was caught off because I tried not to read the background of the book before I read it. I just wanted to open it up and read. Yeah. That's what I usually do. I got confused at first when you kept on referring to a character, Clinton, as Lion, and I'm like, then he's holding a knife. And I was like, what the heck? Lions don't do that. And it took a little bit to get used to the idea that these are referred to as animals that I know, but they don't necessarily look or act like the animals I know. Because I grew up reading like Anne McCaffrey, and she has lion people in some of her books, and I've read a lot of honestly the Magic the Gathering books where there's like cat warriors and so on, but they never refer to them as tiger, lion, and so on. And so it took a little bit for me to realize, when you say an elephant, as you do early on. Yeah. That's not necessarily an elephant when I think of, though I do admit it's also kind of hard to imagine an elephant hybrid.
Yeah,
thing.
It's some of the characters are easier than other ones, but there's some artwork. That's why I say, for me, Island of Dr. Moreau. If you've ever read that book or seen any of the movies, they're very the bipedal and they're very human-like, but they have specific features that would be to each individual animal. Most elephants would be 8 to 9 foot tall. A mouse would be 4 to 5 foot tall. Yeah, things like that. But they do have. And another one is what's really good is what was that? What's that TV series? It's filmed in Portland, Oregon. I can't remember. But they have human animal. All the monsters are animals. God, what's it called?
I can't remember. But one thing that's come to mind is, unlike the movies for Narnia, the actual books for Narnia, the animals are supposed to be very human-like. Because not only do they talk, but they also walk on hind legs. And the TV series by BBC actually did that one back in the day. Not that I mind the movies. Movies are actually pretty great. But, Rikuchi walks on hind legs. He does that in the movie. But, a lot of the creatures are supposed to be able to do that in Narnia. So I guess approaching it from that one does make sense, because I accepted it in Narnia where they literally say, this is a beaver. This is this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same thing. But when they're most I'd say 75% bipedal, looking with a human body with animal attributes, basically.
Have you ever considered hiring an artist to just draw all these depictions of some of these animals, like the elephant, for example? I just want to know what this bipedal elephant would look like.
We do have a lot of artwork actually on the website, and when we first brought out Laserball, the book, to help us to write it, it's me and my best mate David. We both wrote the series of books. We got an artist to help us to do some concept artwork, and we ended in the first iteration of the book. We actually published a lot of the artwork along with it, and people love it. But the only problem is, when we did that, was we kind of put ourselves in a niche where it took us to an earlier, because adults were reticent to read the book when they saw the pictures in there, so we ended up taking them out. But a lot of people loved it because it was all different styles, like manga and realistic and Marvel kind of pictures, and then mashups of Photoshop. So just to give us different feels and different. So when we were writing, we could visualize them, each character, and make them as real as possible. That was the most important thing for us, to make these characters and the situations as real as possible.
That makes sense. There was an author I interviewed a couple of weeks ago, Israel Gray, who wrote a series called Darkened Day, and his one's definitely very anime influenced, but his book is full of illustrations, and it actually helped a lot, because in some of the more harder fantasy and sci-fi, sometimes the illustrations help. I remember, Lord of the Rings is very famous. You don't have illustrations in the book, but he has maps. You have all these artists over the years who have done illustrations, and so you know what to expect because of these, be it the animated movies, be it the Hildebrandt calendars, be it all these different artwork that you've seen. They're there, and Narnia, of course, has some illustrations, and it helps. It helps when you're going with something more
absolutely
out there.
I completely agree with you. But also it's a hindrance sometimes, because it puts it into your head that you have a specific way. If you think of a Sith Lord, you know what you're going to expect. They're going to be in dark robes. They're going to have a red lightsaber. It also puts it in a certain place that you expect for certain things. So it's good and bad as well. Think of Marvel. You know what Cable looks like. What Superman is expected to look like. Then there's a certain specific way that people expect. And what we did in our writing was, we tried to make it as cinematic as possible. We tried to write as if we were watching film or the TV series, so that you would see a lot of where it was, the placing of the setting of each chapter. And that was really important for us.
I can see that, and definitely in my mind, the difference between, say, a cinematic writing and the more hardcore sci-fi fantasy writing is hardcore sci-fi fantasy. Like Robert Jordan never wrote a book that was necessarily meant to be a movie or TV show. He wrote a book that he created a whole world and flew like that.
Yeah.
One. This one has a flow, because TV, movies, they have to flow, they have to move, and this book moves just like that one, where you can see it flowing in your mind. You don't have to pause and think about what you're reading. You don't have to pause and necessarily think about all the ideas. You can.
Yeah.
and it definitely makes it better. But you don't have to, and it makes it. That's what page turners are.
Yeah, we definitely wanted to do that with especially with the first book, because as unknown authors, and this being our first project, we wanted to make sure that we grabbed them and took them on a journey, because the entire point. Some people were frustrated because they don't know what's going on, like why things are happening. But the entire point is that the reader is in Clinton's situation. So when Clinton finds out a piece of information, the reader is getting that. So they're working it out as he's working out. So when you get to the end, when all the pieces come together, that's when the big reveal is. But you get it in time. We feed you information bit by bit. We want our readers to be a bit more intelligent, not be spoon-fed as well. So that was really important that, that people get that. And by the end of the book, people go, oh, wow, I get it. I understand it all now. But I didn't understand why he has this relationship with this person, or, it's fun, but that was the entire point. It's like a journey that you are put in, and you are taken along on that journey, and you have, there's no time for thinking. Once it starts, these series of events escalate and keep rolling.
So what got you to start wanting to write a book? Because books, a lot of people read books, but wanting to write one and actually getting it done and so on is a totally different matter. How long ago did you actually start this idea for a book?
This project has been going for years, absolutely years. Now, it started, it was my best mate, Dave Ayres. He was playing, he used to love this computer game called Animal Olympics. It was like an arcade game. And he played that, and he always had this idea to do a world where the animals reign supreme. And he was talking about it, and he was talking about, he'd like to make like a graphic novel or a comic or anything. This was about 10 years ago, and I'd been on tour doing the show. I don't know which country I was in or whatever, but I'd just come back, and we went for dinner, him and his wife, and we were chatting, and I said, well, if you do it, and you need some money, I'll invest and help you do the comic. And then we were chatting, and then I ended up getting involved, and then within a week, we'd already laid out the world, we'd laid out the plot, and for a series, and a series of whatever it was going to be. And then we decided it was going to be a book, and I was going on tour then I was going to Asia. I was going around Japan and Korea for a couple of months. I was working there, and I was in a long running show, so it was going to be 8 shows a week of the same character. And it kind of gets, it's really difficult as an actor to keep doing the same role over and over again without it getting boring, and keeping it fresh for the audience, because it's not fair on the audience if it's not fresh. So I started writing as a means of keeping up my artistic, keeping my artistic abilities fresh. And while I was in Japan and Korea, we started writing, and we've got a really great way of writing, because they will start the chapter and send it to me, and I'll completely rewrite it. And if I have a tangent, and I'll start writing and do all this lot, and then send him notes, and then send it to him, and then he'll completely rip it to shreds and rewrite it and send it back to me, and I'll do it one more time. Then we'll leave it and move on to the next chapter. And that's basically how we started writing it. And the reason for it was for me, it was a perfect escape, because I wanted to keep artistically challenged and artistically fresh, basically. And this was years ago. And it was so interesting, because we kept on. We wrote a whole 3 books all in one go, and then went back and completely we deleted 2 of the books because we weren't happy with where it went, and we wrote it all over again. And it was a good learning curve for us, because not to rush so far ahead without, really thinking about it. And it took many years because we tried to get it published in the UK, and we kept on getting so close with the biggest, like publishers and things like that. Like the thing that happened in 2008, we got signed by a huge literary agent in the UK, a huge one, and then the economy went under. And this was about a month after we just signed, and they dropped everybody that they'd had hired in the last 6 months. So we got dropped, and I think that was like a real kick in the teeth for us. So we kind of just put it on the shelf, for a few years, and until I had a dream. This is only David knows this, so I don't know why I'm telling this. I had a dream, and it was about the book, and in this dream I got the book out of my shelf, and I started reading it. And I just woke up, and it was about 3:00 in the morning, and I went and opened my computer and read the book again, and I was like, this is good. This needs to carry on. And that's basically why we started it all up again and said, you know what, we need to get this published.
Wow.
Yeah.
So one thing I want to ask, when you were, the process of writing it, where you guys go back and forth, have you guys ever had an issue where someone is so stuck on a certain part of a chapter that they want in there, and the other person does not want it in there? So when you traded it back and forth, it just sometimes you guys keep on taking the same thing out or putting the same thing back in there until you eventually just have to, like, that stays now.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But the thing is, I respect David so much, and he respects me. We're both work really well together, because I'm so reticent to start something, and he starts something, but once I start it, I don't give up. Whereas David kind of goes blah and then stops. So we're great for each other, because we just work really well together. But coming to chapters where we have arguments or disagreements with it, we don't really do that, because we'll say he'll write notes saying, I think this needs to be cut, and he'll like highlight all this certain section or whatever, or this is meandering, let's cut this down, And if I disagree, I'll say, we've said in the past, I'm like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is this to you? And he'll say like 5, and I'm like, well, this is a 7, so this sticks. Or he'll do the other way around. It's so funny. We have more arguments about stylistic stuff, about, like, so I'm like, I'll put like more poetic stuff in there. He's like, we need to move this along. Let's just, cut it down. I'm like, no. And he's like, yes. And I think that's the more that we come to blows about. But it's not even that. It's like, because I think you have to respect each other. And we've never had an argument in the 10 years that we've been working on it. I mean, when we come down to the final bits where we're going to publish, we'll sit at the computer together, and we will all Skype together, and we'll go through the entire thing where he's highlighted something, and he'll say, okay, what do you think about this? And I'll say, we can change it and just, change some words around, make it more active, get some stronger adjectives or whatever. And he's like, yeah, I agree, let's do that. But we won't move on until we come to an agreement with a certain thing. But that's all just like nitpicking. I think we totally respect each other. Like when he makes changes, like 99% of the time I go, do you know what? Yeah, you're completely right. Yeah, let's cut that. And he does the same with me. So, I do think it's just with a two person writing scenario, it's just about having patience and respect for each other.
So let's see if I can word this question right. Is how much input have you allowed, say, the early reviews or early people who read it and so on? Have you allowed them to have on the book, and have you made any changes because of early reviews? Because I know some people, like, they'll put their book out, especially self-published. People will review it, and then they'll have another edit. They'll go through and make some changes, and you'll be able to update the ebook or whatever. It's one advantage of ebook is you can actually do that.
Yeah, no, we were very much influenced by it. As an actor, David is an actor as well, but as an actor, I try not to get influenced by reviews that much, because a review is a personal opinion in the end of the day. But then if people are saying the same thing over and over again, you have to address that situation. And we were very lucky with our reviews. Like the first review that we ever got, it just blew my mind because they said this is one of the best fantasy books I've read, and they put it up there with, I swear, I'm not lying. She said, Wuthering Heights, Perks of Being a Wallflower, Anna Karenina, and our book. So I literally, jaw hit the floor. I was like, what? No. That was our first book, but our second review was horrific. And that was my fault because when I sent some out, and it was they were a specific type of reviewer, and I should have done some more research, basically, because it was my fault, because they don't like some of our ideas. It's the idea of we touch on the subject of the soul. There's magic in there. It's in the future where there's a dystopia. Not all people are going to like that, that idea, that premise. And yeah, this person didn't like it. And I think that's the only bad review we've ever had, but it was scathing. And some of it was, well, like I'd say 5% of it we addressed, and we're like, yeah, actually she has a point about this chapter. And we addressed it and we did rewrite. But 95% of what she said was rubbish. And that's fine. She can have that opinion. That's absolutely fine. But we just skimmed over that because it was everybody else. When you get 20 odd other reviews saying that she's wrong, then I'm going to go with the majority. If they said otherwise, we would have to address it. But it's been brilliant, actually, because with each book and each edit of it, we've learned along the way, and that's what's good about ebooks, is you can make revisions and second editions. And we spoke to Amazon, and they sent out a new edition for us when we when we brought out Alpha. We updated Laserball, and we took out the artwork, and we took out, I think it was about 3,000 words, and just made it even tighter, because what we learned is, as new writers, you can say the dog sat in the park, and then the next sentence would be, in the park the dog was sitting. So you're saying the same thing in different ways over and over again, and I think it's stronger just to get it to a punchy one sentence. And this was David that was really cracking the whip on that one, saying, we're saying the same thing over again. Like, we say the same sentence 3 times in a different way. Maybe we should think about just tidying it up. And our editor said the same thing as well. And so we did that, because when we were editing book 2, I really got to chat to our editor a lot more, and it's really beneficial for especially new writers to really work with your editor and listen to them, because these are the people that they know what they're talking about. You might have an ego, you might have an opinion, but these are your school teachers that are literally giving you that red pen mark, that A or the F, and you should listen to them. You shouldn't just publish any old book, get it out there. You need it professionally edited. You need it, you need other second opinions on there, because we, like, especially for book 2 and book 3, we had readers that read the book and gave us information, and that was really beneficial for us, because there was certain things that we did go back to book 2 and book 3 and we're like, yeah, I agree with what you're saying, this needs to be clarified, we need to add a little bit more urgency building up to this, and yeah, I've gone on a tangent, I'm sorry.
So one more question to continue on this one, and then I'll have one more question on that one, is how nervous were you when you first put the book out to look at reviews? And do you look at the reviews now, or do you just let them come and go? Because I know a lot of authors don't read them, because it can affect you. It can affect you mentally.
I do. I do read the reviews. I don't take them to heart as much now, but that's only through having a armor-like skin. But I do read the reviews just because, like I said, if there's certain points in that people keep saying, then that needs to be addressed. But I know that it's somebody's opinion. You either like it or you don't. You know, it's not a personal attack. It's just an opinion, and from that opinion, you know, we need to address that. But I do read the reviews. I even now, like, it's great. I mean, it's good for your ego, but it's just good to get appreciation for so much hard work that you put into these projects. And that's why we're sending, we sent out a few ebooks out for reviews from people, but we want honest ones. I really stress that, we want honest interviews. If you don't like it, that's fine. You don't like it. Luckily, everybody's kind of liked it at the moment. So, but no, I definitely do. And what was the other question?
Well, I was just wondering how nervous you were when the reviews first came.
God, yeah. Dave and I would Skype each other saying, "Oh my God, did you read that? Oh no, that's horrible. That's brilliant. Yeah, amazing." Yeah, we were really nervous, especially, like I said though, we were so lucky with the first review being fantastic, and then we had the flip side and the second review being awful. So we get the best of both worlds, basically.
So one thing I want to touch on, which is actually touched on your Goodreads page, is you said you get inspired to write by listening to film scores.
Yes.
Which is something that I do a lot. I like a lot of the film scores which you have on there. I have, except for Winter Soldier, because I find that one kind of just grating on the soul. But
are you saying no?
It's kind of
in your opinion.
Yeah, in my opinion, because it's more shrill than the John Williams-y stuff I prefer. But Tron Legacy, Man of Steel, Harry Potter, ones that I definitely have. But I'm just wondering, because when I read your book, I don't necessarily think of Tron Legacy. I don't necessarily think of Man of Steel or some of the other scores. How did this music just help you with your writing? Because it has a pulse, it has a beat, and I can see how that could help your rhythm.
Yeah.
But how does some of this music just help the flow with your process?
Well, it depends. Like certain chapters, if a chapter is describing a feeling or doing a flashback, or is more about atmosphere, especially for book 2, we used the Harry Potters, and I have a playlist of certain tracks in the Harry Potters that would be there. It would be creating an ambience for me. So I would already be in my head. I would be in the situation. But so, like, if it was action-packed and there's a fight going on, or there's a laser ball match, I would have Winter Soldier with the all that on the drums and the pulse stuff going off. Or if it was like huge cinema, it would be Tron, because the Tron soundtrack is just unbelievable. It's phenomenal. There's so much in there.
Indeed.
And we have it in the background. I don't want words, because I want the words to pour out, but I have it in the background, so I'm in that situation with the music. I think the music helps to trigger certain things, and especially when I've got music on, the words just flow. When I put a playlist on, I can't do it. I can't listen to music when I'm editing, when I'm just going through. But when I'm writing, I always have it in the background. I think it with art, it's creating some impulses and pulses in the brain that just, I don't know, it gets the creative juices flowing for me. I love it. And David does that as well. Because sometimes David used to tell me when he was thinking about stuff, he would go into because he's got 2 kids and a dog, and he's a hectic lifestyle. He'd go into the car with a CD and put like Lord of the Rings on, and just think about what plot issues and story ideas and things like that. And that's what he would do. And I was like, So I started doing that a few years ago, and as a writer, it turned it around. because if you're listening to the music, you're all hyped up and you're like, and you're tapping away on the keyboard, and it just makes it easier for me, I think.
I agree. I write like that because I write audio dramas. You've had, I don't know, 6 or 7 Star Wars audio dramas on our podcast, which I've written. But I usually go with like the Two Steps from Hell type, where they have like 4,000 songs and just keep on going with the high beat. But it's just it definitely helps because it helps you focus on something that's not distracting outside. You put the headphones on and you just go in there, and as long as that's what you listen to all the time when you write, it definitely helps. Now, if you listen to lots of different things and do different, it can not necessarily help as much.
Yeah, exactly. It just depends. If like I said, I have playlists for certain types of chapter, and some music just wouldn't work. I found that the Superman Man of Steel was great as well, because it goes through so much. In that soundtrack, there's the slow, atmospheric, deep, and then you've got the
launch and flight.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the oil rig.
Yeah, exactly. And so there's so much in there, and it really helps. But like sometimes I listen to God, I can't remember what it was now. There was somebody on YouTube it was so dark, and one of my friends, I was shooting a short for Wolfenstein, the computer games. I was doing a short for them, and it was Clinton Jones, who runs Pornisher channel on YouTube. He was the one that told me, and I can't remember what it was, but it was like all atmospheric music, which was great for writing the background stuff when we were doing descriptions of. This is in the book too, when they go into new places. It goes out of Woburn, it goes into the great unknown, basically, and it's kind of dark, because outside of the villages, it's very dark. It's dangerous, and we wanted to have that feel to it. And he told me this. I can't remember who it was now. I've got it on my playlist, on my YouTube playlist. But I was listening to them for ages, but it was really dark. It was fantastic. It was perfect, actually.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So last thing before we're going to switch to the second half, where can people find your book? If people want to find your book and check it out, where should they go?
You can get it basically Amazon. It's in paperback, and it's also an ebook in all formats. You can get it at Barnes & Noble's store, iTunes, any platform, electronic platform. You can get it on the paperback in Create Space as well, if you want to go to that store. Pretty much, if you make a Google, if you do a Google search, you'll be able to find it pretty much anywhere.
Okay. And you recommend an ebook or physical copy, or what? Is there, or do you not care?
Oh, it's a personal preference. I don't. As long as you read it, I'm happy. But it's a personal preference. It's a really touchy subject at the moment. Some people are really defensive about this. They're like, no, I only read in paperback, and some people are like, no, I only read in ebooks because it's better for the environment. I actually have like at my home in Bradford, England, my bedroom is like a library. I have so many books, but I have bought a Nook e-reader, and I've got so many books on there now, and it's just finding the time to read, basically. But either one is fine for me.
Okay. So we're going to pause right here take a little bit of a break, folks, and then we're going to come back. We're going to talk about what other things Darren does. And there's a lot of them.